Hi, everyone. I'm Jen. I'm from the ARC Montgomery County, and I have the pleasure of talking to Matthew Kenslow today. Matthew is the author of two books, one I have right here. He holds multiple degrees. He's a substitute teacher, and he has more than 1 million followers on Instagram. And Matthew writes and speaks about his having autism and not letting that stop him from pursuing his passions. Unstoppable. Hi, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
First of all, Matthew, I have to ask you a question about your 1 million followers on Instagram. How did you do that? Because that's like celebrity numbers that you have 1 million followers.
Very carefully. I mean, it took several years. I continued to post, and I also invested in some meta ads, like boosted some posts to help give it a little push. And then I continued to engage in with followers, and I found a community of people with who talk about autism. So I support their Instagram page, and they support mine, and we just grew from there.
That's great. With your Instagram following and you've written two books, when you sat down, when you were, crafting a message, what did you feel like was not being said that you wanted to say?
Well, one of the things is I wanted to talk about my firsthand perspective, and I knew that everyone has their perspectives, and it was a catharsis to release what I had in my heart and mind. I have witnessed some, I guess, discrimination, if you will, still, like in my neighborhood. I just felt like there wasn't a lot of understanding, and if there was awareness, then they didn't necessarily accept. So I figured there's a need out there. There's still more to do. And I just wanted to contribute while encouraging other people to continue sharing their stories as well.
As I mentioned before, you've accomplished so much, or you're not even 30 yet. What's your advice? What's your big, picture advice, maybe starting with someone who, has autism or has a disability and they face challenges or maybe they face discrimination like you have. What is your advice for them?
I encourage them to not allow the label of autism or whatever disability to stop you from doing what you want to do and from achieving your dreams. And I know how hard it is in life, academically, socially, and when people sometimes tease or discriminate against you, I choose to forgive and just move forward. And sometimes we have to learn to go through things and not around things, and that's helps make us stronger. And patience is one of the biggest things you got to come to terms with, which I did as well.
Having patience with maybe people who are just, ignorant and maybe they don't, know exactly anything about autism. And is that something important to you as well, that, that people educate themselves?
Yeah, it's very important to me. That's what I've been saying for a while is encouraging people who don't yet know about us, or at least fully, to educate themselves and learn that we could get along and we could be good friends if given the chance.
And as I mentioned before, you're a teacher. What do you hear from students and maybe students that also have a disability or have autism?
I mostly get positive feedback as a teacher. A lot of students are accepting, about 95% of them, so not everybody, but I am patient and I support them and I could help them with academics and everything. But a lot of students have been accepting and asking questions. There's been a few times when students took the time to talk with me about autism, wanting to find out more about it. And something that happened a few weeks ago, I was subbing at California Elementary, and there's a fifth grader that came up and asked me what was the number one challenge that he had with autism and what's the number one accomplishment. So he wanted to dialogue about that. So in my observation, I'm seeing a lot more awareness and a lot more acceptance and some inclusivity with students in schools today.
That's something that we promote and talk about. It's a big part of our mission here at the ARC Montgomery County is inclusivity. What does that look? What does inclusivity look like for you? How would you, tell somebody to be inclusive? What is an example of it? What's something that they can do to really promote that message?
Well, what I tell students, and including my volunteer assemblies, is if you see someone sitting alone, or if you see someone possibly being teased, or if you discern that they're shy, then go up to them and be a friend to them, introduce them to your friends, find out what they like and find out what they don't like. And that comes from having conversation and help them feel included. And sometimes people don't like music, bands, movies, whatever, but they're perfectly content talking or playing a board game, but just get to know the person.
Well, then I'll go back because you talked about a student came up to you and asked you your, I think it was like your biggest challenge and then your biggest accomplishment. What was your answer to that?
Well, I had to like summarize on the spot there when I was talking to him, but I basically summarized some of the challenges include it's hard to concentrate, and I had a speech delay, so I had to take speech therapy. And I also had so the concentration affects like my academics, getting work done quickly enough, and then the social factors like being shy and being teased. But one of the biggest accomplishments includes like pursuing education, insofar as getting a master's degree and fulfilling those passions, as well as my special interests like piano and juggling.
I know, just you do so many things, Matthew. You're a scholar, you juggle, you play piano, you're writing books. I don't know. I mean, I guess the question is, how do you find time to do all this stuff?
Very carefully, I guess. No, I mean, I'm not sure. Once I start a project, it's hard to stop unless I finish it. But I've had to do that thousands of times where I had to stop and go to bed for the night.
But it is Autism Acceptance Month. I watched some of your videos online, and you talked about, you obviously love this month, and it's very important to you. Why are you so thankful for an observant month like this?
Yeah, I'm thankful that it's like the world is taking a moment to observe that people with autism exist, and a lot of people know that. Even though I do believe that it should be every day where people accept everyone, of course, but just to take a moment to really emphasize that, I think, I'm not sure, to me, it means the world.
Yeah. And I think, visibility is a big part of it, and just getting the word out, getting, someone like yourself who is a bona fide influencer. You have more than 1 million followers on Instagram. Getting the word out is also just so important. You had talked to me before, in addition to all that, you also speak. You're a public speaker, and you speak to thousands of people. What's your big message when you do deliver these speeches to audiences?
Yeah, well, one of the things I say is I encourage people to be number one, and that I call it my be number one encouragement. In other words, what it means to be number one is you know what you want to do in life, and you know what's going to bring you joy. Yet, even in the face of adversity, never give up on what you want to do and who you want to be in life. And again, sometimes we need patience. We need to learn to go through things, and not around things, and that does make us stronger. Be yourself at the same time. It's okay to be influenced by professionals, but don't try to be them. Be yourself and set standards based on what you could accomplish. And I believe that disability or not, anybody could do whatever they set the heart and mind to do, as long as it's practical, of course. And behind the disability, we have a heart and a mind.
Somebody might look at what you've accomplished. You've written 2 books. You have this, you have multiple degrees. They might look at what you've accomplished and say, "Oh my gosh, that's too much. I don't know if I could accomplish something like that." What would you say? And also, is there something like, incremental or like little that they could do, or just something to like kind of get the ball rolling?
Right, I didn't get these overnight. In fact, I spent 5 years at a 2-year college studying very hard. So for me, it took a lot of patience. And one of the things that I say is if I could do the things that I could do with autism, then so can anybody if they put their heart and mind to it and they stay motivated. And I just encourage people to find their passion, what they want to do, but also give themselves patience. And if setback occurs, which happened to me a lot throughout my life, then just keep going. Like for me, I mean, when I got to the credential program, I had to take 3 semesters instead of 2 semesters. The master's program, I had to do 3 semesters instead of 2. And I'm thankful, because otherwise it would have been more grueling. But I just encourage, patience but just like discipline yourself, motivate yourself, and persevere.
Yeah, exactly. Matthew, thank you so much. You have such great advice, such great words, and I really hope that people pick up your book, Unstoppable, because it just has a lot of great information, great advice, great stories in there. And I thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.